Derek Sullivan had been home for exactly 3 weeks when the black SUV pulled up in front of his house. He was out front, pulling weeds from the flower bed while his 8-year-old daughter Lily rode her scooter up and down the driveway. The sun was warm on his back, and for the first time in months he felt something close to peaceful. The neighborhood had seemed perfect when he bought the house 6 months ago, right before his last deployment. Clean streets, good schools, friendly people who waved when you drove by. After 2 years of operating in some of the worst places on Earth, suburban Texas felt like a different planet. His wife had picked out this house before she passed, looking at pictures online while he was overseas. She never got to see it in person. That made every corner of it precious to him. 2 men stepped out of the SUV, both wearing dark suits that looked expensive. They carried clipboards and had badges hanging from their necks on lanyards. The taller one, maybe in his 40s with slicked back hair, smiled as he approached. The other guy was younger, built like he spent time in the gym with a tight haircut and sunglasses he didn't bother taking off. "Mr. Sullivan?" the taller one called out. Derek stood up, brushing dirt off his hands. His instincts kicked in automatically. He noticed the SUV's engine was still running. He noticed the younger guy's right hand stayed near his pocket. He noticed they'd parked in a way that blocked his driveway. Years of training made you see these things whether you wanted to or not. "That's me," Derek said, keeping his voice friendly. "Can I help you?" The tall man extended his hand. "I'm Robert Chen, and this is my associate David Martinez. We're from the Heritage Hills Property Management Authority. We handle HOA compliance for this neighborhood." Derek shook his hand, though something felt off. He didn't remember signing anything about an HOA when he closed on the house. "Okay, what's this about?" Chen clicked his pen and looked down at his clipboard. "Well, Mr. Sullivan, we've received several complaints about your property. We're here to conduct an official inspection and inform you of the violations." "Violations?" Derek glanced at his yard. He'd mowed the grass 4 days ago. The house was freshly painted. Everything looked fine to him. Martinez stepped forward, still wearing those sunglasses. "Your lawn height exceeds the maximum allowable length by 0.3 inches. Your mailbox is non-regulation black instead of heritage black, which is specified in the covenant. And you have items visible from the street that constitute visual pollution." Derek looked at Lily's scooter and the chalk drawings she'd made on the driveway that morning. Pink and purple flowers, a wonky house, a stick figure family. "You're talking about my daughter's toys?" According to Section 47(b) of the HOA covenant, all recreational equipment must be stored out of sight when not in active use. The chalk markings violate the clean driveway policy. This had to be a joke. Derek laughed, but neither man smiled. "Look, I think there's been some confusion. I don't remember anything about an HOA when I bought this place." Chen flipped through papers on his clipboard. "All properties in Heritage Hills are subject to the covenant. It's a binding agreement. Ignorance of the rules doesn't exempt you from compliance." "I'd like to see a copy of this covenant," Derek said. His voice stayed calm, but his mind was working through the situation. Something wasn't right about these guys. The way they talked felt rehearsed, like they'd given this speech 100 times. "We can arrange that," Chen said smoothly. "However, the violations still need to be addressed immediately. You have 48 hours to correct all issues. After that, you'll incur daily fines starting at $500 per day per violation." $500 a day? Derek felt his jaw tighten. "For grass that's barely different than anyone else's on this street?" Martinez crossed his arms. "The rules apply to everyone, Mr. Sullivan. We're just doing our jobs." Derek looked up and down the street. 3 houses down, he could see a kid's basketball hoop in a driveway. 2 houses to the left, someone had a garden gnome collection that definitely counted as visual pollution if his daughter's scooter did. "Why am I the only one getting inspected?" "We conduct random compliance checks throughout the neighborhood," Chen said. "You happen to be selected this week. Now we need you to sign this acknowledgement form stating you've been notified of the violations." He held out a form on his clipboard. Derek didn't take it. Every alarm bell in his head was ringing now. He'd spent 15 years as a Navy SEAL, and a big part of that job was knowing when someone was running a game on you. These guys hit all the markers. The intimidating language, the impossible-to-meet standards, the immediate threat of massive fines, the pressure to sign something right away. "I'm not signing anything until I talk to a lawyer and see the actual HOA documents," Derek said. Martinez took a step closer. "That's your right, Mr. Sullivan. But the violations stand whether you acknowledge them or not. The fines start in 48 hours. "Daddy, who are those men?" Lily had stopped her scooter and was looking at them with big, worried eyes. Derek's whole body tensed. He didn't like them looking at his daughter. "Go inside, sweetheart. I'll be there in a minute." "But I'm not done playing." "Now, Lily." She heard the tone in his voice and went inside without arguing. Smart kid. He taught her to trust her instincts, and right now his instincts were screaming. Chen's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Cute daughter. Must be hard raising her alone after your wife passed. I'm sure you want to provide a stable home for her." The hair on the back of Derek's neck stood up. How did this guy know about his wife? That wasn't public information. That wasn't something that would be in any property records. "I think we're done here," Derek said quietly. "We'll be back in 48 hours to re-inspect," Chen said, handing him a business card. "We strongly encourage compliance, Mr. Sullivan, for your sake and your daughter's." They walked back to their SUV and drove away. Derek stood there holding the business card, his mind racing. He went inside and locked the door behind him. "Are we in trouble?" Lily asked from the kitchen table where she was coloring. "No, baby. Everything's fine." He ruffled her hair and smiled at her, but his mind was already working. He pulled out his laptop and searched for Heritage Hills Property Management Authority. Nothing came up. He searched for HOA records for his address in the county database. Nothing. He checked his closing documents from when he bought the house. No mention of any HOA. These guys were running a scam. He was sure of it now. But they'd done their homework. They knew his name, knew about his wife, knew he was a single father. That meant they'd targeted him specifically. The question was why, and what were they really after? Derek looked at his daughter, peacefully coloring at the table, completely unaware that something dangerous had just walked up to their front door. He'd protected people in war zones halfway around the world. He could damn sure protect his own kid in his own driveway. He picked up his phone and started making calls. First to his real estate agent, then to the county clerk's office, then to the police non-emergency line. He wasn't some civilian who'd panic and pay whatever they demanded. He was a Navy SEAL, and if these guys thought they could intimidate him, they had no idea who they were dealing with. But neither did he. Not yet. Derek spent the next 2 days attacking the problem like a mission. He measured every blade of grass with a ruler. He went to 3 different hardware stores until he found the exact shade of black paint that matched every other mailbox on the street. He built a small storage shed in his backyard in one afternoon and moved all of Lily's outdoor toys into it. He power washed the driveway until the chalk was completely gone. Part of him knew he was probably wasting his time. If these guys were scammers, nothing he did would matter. But the other part of him, the part that had been trained to follow orders and complete objectives, couldn't help but do it anyway. Besides, even if it was a scam, he wanted to see what they'd do when he called their bluff. Lily watched him work from the porch steps. "Why do I have to keep my scooter in the shed now?" "Just new rules, baby." "It's okay. I don't like those rules, and I don't like those men." "You're a smart kid," Derek said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Always trust your gut." On the morning of the 3rd day, right at 9 o'clock, the black SUV pulled up again. This time there were 3 people. Chen and Martinez, plus a woman in her 50s wearing a sharp business suit and carrying a leather briefcase. Her gray hair was pulled back tight, and she had the kind of face that probably never smiled, even at weddings. Derek was ready. He'd set up his phone to record video, propped on the porch railing where they wouldn't notice it. He'd also called his buddy Jake, a retired Marine who lived 20 minutes away, and asked him to stop by around 9:30, just in case. The woman walked up first, her heels clicking on the sidewalk. "Mr. Sullivan, I'm Patricia Holloway, Chief Compliance Officer for Heritage Hills Property Management. May we inspect your property?" "Go ahead," Derek said. He stayed on the porch, arms crossed, watching. They walked around like they were inspecting a crime scene. Patricia made notes on a tablet. Chen took pictures. Martinez measured things with a tape measure. They spent 15 minutes checking every corner of his yard. Derek noticed they paid special attention to the windows, the doors, the layout of the house. That wasn't about HOA violations. That was reconnaissance. Finally, Patricia came back to the porch. "Mr. Sullivan, while you've made efforts to address some violations, I'm afraid we have a more serious situation." "What situation?" She tapped on her tablet. "Due to the severity of the initial violations and your failure to demonstrate responsible home ownership, We're invoking Section 103 of the Covenant. We're placing an immediate lien on your property in the amount of $75,000. Derek felt his blood pressure spike, but he kept his face blank. $75,000 for grass in a mailbox? The lien accounts for violations, administrative fees, legal processing, and future compliance monitoring. She said it like she was reading from a script. You can contest this through the proper channels, but the lien is active as of today. Show me the covenant, Derek said. Show me where it says you can do this. Patricia's expression didn't change. The master covenant is archived at our main office. We can request a copy, but it takes 4 to 6 weeks for retrieval and certification. That's convenient. Mr. Sullivan, I understand you're frustrated, but these rules exist for a reason. They maintain property values and community standards. I'm sure you want what's best for your daughter. There it was again, the mention of Lily. Derek's hands clenched. Leave my daughter out of this. Chen stepped forward. We're all on the same side here. We just want compliance. Now, if $75,000 is difficult, we can discuss a payment plan. Perhaps you could refinance using your VA loan? They knew he had a VA loan. They knew everything about him. This wasn't random. This was targeted. I want to speak to the HOA board, Derek said. I want names, contact information, meeting minutes. Patricia shook her head. The board members' identities are confidential for privacy reasons. All communication goes through our office. Give me your business license number, your office address, your registration with the Texas Secretary of State. She blinked. Excuse me? If you're a legitimate property management company, you're registered with the state. Give me your registration number so I can verify it. The three of them exchanged glances. Martinez shifted his weight, his hand moving toward his pocket again. Chen's friendly smile got a little tighter. Mr. Sullivan, I don't appreciate your tone, Patricia said. We're trying to help you resolve the situation. By putting a $75,000 lien on my house for grass height, by enforcing community standards that you agreed to when you purchased this property. I never agreed to anything. There's no HOA registered for this neighborhood. I checked the county records. Patricia's eyes narrowed. You've been making inquiries? Damn right I have. And you know what I found? Nothing. No HOA. No Heritage Hills property management. No business license. No registration, nothing. The air got thick. Martinez took a step toward him. Chen's smile disappeared completely. Patricia closed her tablet with a snap. Mr. Sullivan, I think you're making this more difficult than it needs to be. I think you're running a scam, Derek said. And I think you need to leave my property before I call the police. Patricia studied him for a long moment. Then she did something that made Derek's skin crawl. She smiled. We'll be in touch. They walked back to the SUV and drove away. Derek grabbed his phone and stopped the recording. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the adrenaline dump. He'd been in firefights that felt less tense than that conversation. Jake's truck pulled up 10 minutes later. He was a big guy, built like a linebacker with a beard that made him look like a biker. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was hell. Did I miss the excitement? They just left. Derek showed him the video. Jake watched it twice. Man, these guys are good. That whole setup, the language they use, the pressure tactics. This is sophisticated. I'm going to the police. Good luck with that. Derek drove to the local police station and asked to speak to someone about fraud. A detective named Williams listened to his story and watched the video. He was sympathetic but not helpful. Look, Mr. Sullivan, I believe you. This smells like a scam. But here's the problem. They haven't actually taken any money from you. They've made threats, but they haven't followed through. Without a victim who's actually lost money or without clear evidence of fraud, there's not much we can do. They threatened to lien my house. But they haven't filed anything, have they? I checked while you were talking. There's no lien on your property in the county records. Until they actually commit a crime, my hands are tied. So I have to wait until they rob me before you can do anything? Detective Williams sighed. You can file for a restraining order. Keep documenting everything. If they come back, call 911 immediately. But right now, legally, they're just annoying people making empty threats. Derek left the station feeling like he'd been punched in the gut. The system was supposed to protect people, but it only worked after the damage was done. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the way Patricia had looked at him, the way Martinez kept his hand near his pocket, the way they'd mentioned Lily twice. At 2 in the morning, he got up and checked all the locks. He looked out the window at the empty street. At 3 in the morning, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. The text message was simple. 48 hours. Comply or face consequences. Derek stared at the message. Consequences. What consequences? He checked on Lily. She was asleep, her nightlight casting soft shadows on the walls. Her stuffed rabbit was tucked under her arm. She looked so small, so innocent. After her mom died, she'd been everything to him. The reason he got up in the morning. The reason he came home from deployment. The reason he kept going when everything else felt pointless. These people had researched him. They knew he was a single father. They knew about his wife. They knew he'd do anything to protect his daughter. And Derek realized something that made his blood run cold. They weren't just running a financial scam. They were setting up something bigger. The reconnaissance of his house. The repeated mentions of Lily. The escalating pressure. He grabbed his laptop and started searching for similar scams. It took him an hour, but he found it. 3 different news stories from other states. HOA scam targets military families. Fake property managers extort homeowners. Veteran loses life savings to fraudulent HOA. The pattern was always the same. They targeted people with money, usually military families with VA loans and survivor benefits. They pressured them into paying fake fines and liens. But in 2 of the cases, when the victims refused to pay, things got violent. Home invasions, threats against family members. In one case, a family's car was firebombed. These weren't just scammers. They were dangerous. Derek looked at his sleeping daughter and made a decision. He wasn't going to wait for the police to help. He wasn't going to be a victim. He was going to handle this himself. He picked up his phone and started calling people. Old teammates, military buddies, people who understood how to deal with threats. By the time the sun came up, he had a plan. But he was too late. The black SUV was already parked across the street watching his house. Derek saw the SUV at 6 in the morning when he went to make coffee. It was parked 3 houses down, engine off, windows tinted dark enough that he couldn't see inside, but he knew they were watching. He could feel it. Lily had a cold, so she was staying home from school. Any other time, Derek would have been fine with it. Today, it made him nervous. He wanted her somewhere safe, somewhere public. But she'd been up half the night coughing, and he couldn't send her to school like that. Stay inside today, okay? He told her at breakfast. No going outside, not even on the porch. Why? Just because. He didn't want to scare her, but he needed her to take this seriously. If anyone comes to the door that I don't know, you go straight to your room and lock the door. Remember what we practiced? They'd done this drill before. If something bad happened, Lily knew to lock herself in her room, push the dresser against the door, and call 911 from the cell phone he kept charged in her nightstand. He'd taught her how to give the address clearly and calmly. At 8 years old, she knew more about emergency procedures than most adults. Daddy, you're scaring me. He knelt down and looked her in the eyes. I know, baby, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She nodded, her bottom lip trembling a little. He hugged her tight, breathing in the smell of her strawberry shampoo. Whatever happened today, he'd make sure she stayed safe. That was the only thing that mattered. At 9 o'clock, the black SUV pulled into his driveway. This time there were 5 people. Chen, Martinez, Patricia, and 2 new guys. Big guys, the kind who got paid to look intimidating. One of them had something clipped to his belt that looked like a taser. Derek's heart rate spiked, but his training kicked in. He assessed the situation in seconds. 5 against 1. 2 clearly experienced in violence. Unknown weapons. His daughter inside. Home territory, but limited options. Not good odds, but he'd worked with worse. He stepped out onto the porch and pulled the door shut behind him. I thought I told you not to come back. Patricia walked up with that same cold expression. She was carrying a folder now, thick with papers. Mr. Sullivan, we're not here about the property violations anymore. We're here about a much more serious matter. What matter? She opened the folder and pulled out a document. It looked official, with stamps and seals and dense legal text. We've received reports of child endangerment at this address, specifically neglect and unsafe living conditions. As representatives of the county's Child Welfare Oversight Division, we have the authority to conduct an immediate inspection and, if necessary, remove the child from the home pending a full investigation. Derek's blood turned to ice. You're not with Child Services. We're contracted through the Heritage Hills Oversight Program, which has jurisdiction in this area. That's not a real thing. None of this is real. You're running a scam and now you're threatening my daughter." Chen stepped forward. "Mr. Sullivan, I understand you're upset, but we have documentation here that gives us the legal authority to enter your home and assess the situation. If you refuse, we can have local law enforcement here in minutes to enforce compliance." It was all fake. Derek knew it was fake. The document was probably printed this morning on some computer. The seals were probably downloaded from the internet, but it looked real enough that if they showed up with the police, there might be enough confusion to cause problems. And confusion was exactly what they wanted. "You're not touching my daughter." Patricia's eyes got hard. "Mr. Sullivan, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. But we're going inside that house to perform our inspection. If you resist, we'll have to document that as well, which will only make things worse for you." Martinez moved toward the door. Derek stepped in front of him. "Move," Martinez said. "No." That's when Derek saw it. Martinez's hand went to his pocket, and Derek caught a glimpse of a knife clipped inside. Not a taser, a knife. These people weren't here to inspect anything. They were here to hurt him, to grab Lily or both. The big guy with the taser unclipped it from his belt. "Step aside, sir." Derek's mind raced through options. He could fight, but 5-on-1 with his daughter inside was too risky. He could run inside and lock the door, but they'd just break in. He could call 911, but they'd be gone before police arrived, and next time they'd be more careful. "Let me see that document," Derek said, stalling. Patricia handed it over. Derek pretended to read it, but he was actually scanning the street for witnesses, checking the positions of all 5 people, calculating angles and distances. The document was good, he'd give them that. Fake judge signature. Fake case number, fake court seal. Someone had put time into this. "This says the inspection has to be conducted by a licensed social worker," Derek said, pointing to a paragraph. "Where's your license?" "I have credentials inside the vehicle," Patricia said impatiently. "Then go get them." "Mr. Sullivan, stop stalling. If this is legitimate, you won't mind showing me credentials." Patricia's face tightened with anger. She nodded at Martinez and the big guy with the taser. "Bring him inside." "We're doing this now." That's when everything went wrong. Martinez grabbed Derek's arm. The big guy with the taser moved toward the door. And Derek realized with absolute clarity that these people were going to break into his house and take his daughter right now, in broad daylight, and there wasn't time to stop them any other way. His training took over. His body moved before his conscious mind caught up. He twisted out of Martinez's grip using the man's own momentum against him. His elbow came up and connected with Martinez's nose. Blood sprayed. Martinez stumbled back, cursing. The big guy with the taser turned and fired. Derek saw it coming and moved. The prongs missed him by inches and embedded in the door. The guy's eyes went wide. He tried to pull out a backup weapon, but Derek was already moving. Everything happened in seconds, but it felt like slow motion. Derek's first priority was stopping the guy from getting to his door. His second priority was neutralizing the taser guy. His third priority was not getting killed by the other 3 people who were now shouting and scrambling. He hit the taser guy hard in the solar plexus. The man doubled over, wheezing. Derek grabbed his arm and twisted. He felt the shoulder joint give way. The man screamed and dropped. Martinez came at him again, the knife now in his hand. Derek sidestepped and caught Martinez's wrist. A quick joint lock, a calculated amount of pressure, and he felt the bones in Martinez's forearm snap. The knife clattered to the porch. Martinez went down, screaming and cradling his arm. 2 down, 3 to go. Chen and the other big guy were running back to the SUV. Patricia stood frozen, her face white with shock. Derek heard sirens in the distance. He looked at Patricia. "You should run." She dropped her folder and ran. Papers scattered everywhere. Fake documents flying across the lawn like autumn leaves. The SUV peeled out of the driveway, leaving Martinez and the taser guy behind. Derek grabbed both of them by their collars and dragged them off the porch. He wasn't gentle. Martinez was crying, his broken arm hanging at a sick angle. The other guy was still wheezing, his shoulder dislocated. Inside, he could hear Lily's voice on the phone. "Yes, there are 2 hurt men. No, my dad is okay. He's outside. Please hurry, smart girl." She'd followed the plan exactly. Derek zip-tied both men's good hands behind their backs using ties from his garage. He'd learned a long time ago to keep zip ties around. You never knew when you'd need them. You broke my arm, Martinez gasped. Yeah, Derek said flatly. You came to my house with a knife and tried to break in while my daughter was inside. You're lucky that's all I broke. The police arrived 4 minutes later. 3 cars, lights flashing. Detective Williams got out of the second car. He looked at the 2 men on the ground, then at Derek, then at the taser prong still stuck in the door. Well, Williams said, I guess you got your evidence. Derek's hands were shaking now, the adrenaline finally hitting him. They tried to take my daughter. I can see that. Williams pulled out his handcuffs. Looks like you stopped them pretty effectively. A young officer approached Derek. Sir, I need you to put your hands behind your back. Derek's heart sank. Why don't we need to sort this out downtown? You're not under arrest, but we need statements from everyone. Williams waved the officer off. He's not going anywhere except inside to comfort his kid. Look at that door, Parker. Look at those 2 idiots on the ground. This is self-defense, clear as day. But sir, he broke 2 people's arms because they attacked him at his home while trying to get to his daughter. Trust me, any DA in the state would laugh this out of court. Now go secure the scene and start collecting evidence. Williams turned to Derek. You did good. How's your daughter? Scared, but okay, go be with her. We'll handle this. Derek went inside and found Lily sitting on the stairs hugging her rabbit. Tears were streaming down her face. He scooped her up and held her tight. It's okay, baby. It's over. Those were bad men. Yeah, they were. But they're not going to hurt anyone anymore. Outside, more police arrived. An ambulance came for Martinez and the taser guy. Detective Williams started collecting the fake documents scattered across the lawn. A crime scene photographer took pictures of everything. Derek sat on the couch with Lily in his lap, watching through the window as they loaded Martinez into the ambulance. His broken arm was splinted, his face pale with pain and shock. Part of Derek felt bad about. The police station smelled like bad coffee and cleaning solution. Derek sat in an interview room with Detective Williams going through everything for the 3rd time. A camera in the corner recorded every word. His lawyer, a sharp woman named Catherine Ross who specialized in veteran cases, sat next to him taking notes. Walk me through the moment Martinez pulled the knife again, Williams said. Derek had already explained this twice, but he understood why they needed it on record. He reached into his pocket. I saw the clip of a folding knife. That's when I knew they weren't here to talk. When someone shows a weapon and moves toward your door where your kid is inside, you don't get a second chance to make a decision. Williams nodded. And you're absolutely certain he had the knife out when you engaged? Positive. It's on my security camera. Front porch angle should have caught it. We're pulling that footage now. Williams leaned back in his chair. Between you and me, Sullivan, I've seen a lot of self-defense cases. This is one of the clearest I've ever worked. But I have to ask. 2 broken arms, 1 dislocated shoulder. That's significant force. It's controlled force, Derek said. If I wanted to kill them, they'd be dead. I neutralized threats to my daughter using the minimum force necessary to stop them. That's what I was trained to do. Catherine jumped in. Detective, my client is a decorated Navy SEAL with 15 years of service. He has extensive training in hand-to-hand combat and threat assessment. When 5 people show up at your home with weapons and fake legal documents attempting to gain access to your child, the law is crystal clear. He had every right to defend himself and his daughter. Williams held up his hands. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just making sure we document everything properly. The DA's going to review this, and I want to make sure there's no question about what happened. What about the 3 who ran? Derek asked. Chen, Patricia, and the other guy. Are you looking for them? Already found them. State troopers pulled them over about 40 miles from here. They're in custody now. Williams smiled grimly. Want to hear something interesting? The SUV was registered to a rental company under a fake business license. Patricia Holloway isn't her real name. It's Patricia Keene, and she's got warrants in 3 states for fraud and extortion. Who is she really? Former paralegal, disbarred 5 years ago for forging documents. She's been running scams ever since. The other 2, Chen and the guy we're calling Dave, since he won't give us his real name, they both have records. Fraud, identity theft, extortion. This whole operation has been running for at least 18 months that we know of. Derek felt sick. How many people did they scam? We're still figuring that out. But based on the records we found in the SUV, at least 40 families. Most of them military like you. They specifically targeted people with VA loans and survivor benefits. People who looked like they had money but might be vulnerable. Did anyone else get hurt? Williams hesitated. 3 other families reported threats. One guy paid them $50,000 to make them go away. Another family moved out of state because they were so scared. And one family, he paused, their car got set on fire in their driveway. No one was hurt, but the message was clear. Derek's hands clenched into fists, and nobody stopped them until now. Most people didn't know it was a scam until it was too late, and the ones who figured it out were too scared to report it. These people were good at what they did. They had fake documents, fake business licenses, fake everything. They looked legitimate enough that even some law enforcement got fooled at first. Not legitimate enough, Derek said quietly. Williams smiled. No, not legitimate enough to fool a SEAL. There was a knock on the door. A young officer stuck his head in. Detective Martinez is talking. Says he wants a deal. That was fast. Williams stood up. Mr. Sullivan, sit tight. This might take a while. 2 hours later, Williams came back with a folder full of papers. He looked tired but satisfied. Martinez sang like a canary. So did the taser guy, whose name is actually Kevin Stokes. They're both looking at serious time and want to reduce their sentences. They gave us everything. Everything. The whole operation. How they picked targets. How they created the fake documents. The bank accounts where they stored the money. Names of other people involved. It's bigger than we thought. He opened the folder. Patricia, or Patricia Keene as we're calling her now, ran the whole thing. She'd worked in property law, so she knew exactly how HOAs worked and how to fake the documents. Chen handled the research. He'd find vulnerable targets, usually through public records and social media. The muscle guys like Martinez and Stokes did the intimidation. And when intimidation didn't work, Williams' face darkened. They escalated. According to Martinez, they'd never actually tried to kidnap a kid before. That was new. Patricia's idea. She thought that if they grabbed your daughter, you'd pay anything to get her back. They were planning to take her and demand $100,000. Derek felt like he'd been punched. His voice came out rough. They were going to kidnap Lily. That was the plan. Martinez says Patricia was getting desperate because the scam was getting too hot. Law enforcement in 2 other states was starting to look at similar cases. She wanted one more big score before they disappeared. You were supposed to be that score. Catherine put her hand on Derek's shoulder. But you stopped them. I should have stopped them sooner, before they hurt anyone else. You couldn't have known, Williams said, but you stopped them when it counted. Because of you, we've got 5 people in custody, and we're building cases against at least 3 more who were involved in the organization. We've recovered about $800,000 from various accounts, and we've got enough evidence to put these people away for a long time. What happens now? We process the evidence. The DA files charges. You'll have to testify eventually, but that's months away. For now, you go home. You take care of your daughter. You try to get back to normal. Normal. Derek almost laughed. He wasn't sure what normal was anymore. They let him go at 6 o'clock. Jake had picked up Lily from the house and taken her to get ice cream. They met at a park near Derek's house. Lily ran to him and wrapped her arms around his waist. I got chocolate chip cookie dough, she announced. Jake said I could get 2 scoops because I was brave. You were very brave, Derek said, hugging her tight. Jake pulled him aside while Lily went to play on the swings. How bad is it? Bad, they were planning to kidnap her. Jesus. Jake ran his hand through his beard. I should have been there. You couldn't have known. Hell, I didn't know until it was happening. What are you going to do? Derek watched Lily on the swings, her hair flying behind her, completely unaware of how close she'd come to being taken. I don't know. Move, maybe. Get somewhere safer, somewhere away from all this. Or you could stay. Prove that you're not going to be scared off. I'm not scared. I'm practical. These people found me once. Others could find me again. Jake shook his head. Others will find you anywhere if they want to. But here, you've got neighbors who know what happened. You've got police who know your face. You've got a community. That's worth something. Derek didn't answer. He wasn't sure about anything anymore. That night, after Lily was asleep, he sat on the porch and looked at the street. Someone had cleaned up the fake documents from the lawn. The taser prongs were gone from the door. The only evidence of what happened was a scuff mark on the porch where Martinez had fallen. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer it, but something made him pick up. Mr. Sullivan? A woman's voice, older, shaky. I'm calling because Detective Williams gave me your number. I hope that's okay. Who is this? My name is Helen Montgomery. I'm one of the families that Patricia Keene scammed. We paid her $30,000 last year because we were scared. I just wanted to say thank you for stopping her, for being brave enough to fight back. Derek's throat got tight. I'm sorry that happened to you. It's over now. Because of you. My husband's a veteran too. Army, 2 tours in Iraq. He felt so ashamed that he fell for the scam. Like he should have known better. But these people were good at what they did. They made it seem so real. It's not his fault, I know that now. Detective Williams says we might get some of our money back. But even if we don't, just knowing they're in jail is enough. My husband can sleep at night now. We both can. After she hung up, Derek sat there for a long time. Over the next 2 days, he got 6 more calls. 6 more families who'd been scammed. They all said the same thing. Thank you. You stopped them. We can sleep now. He started to realize something. He'd spent 15 years protecting people he'd never met in countries halfway around the world. He'd done his job and done it well. But this felt different. These were people he could see. People who called him. People who lived in the same country, fought the same fights, faced the same struggles. Maybe Jake was right. Maybe staying wasn't about being brave. Maybe it was about being part of something bigger than himself. 3 days after everything happened, Derek and Lily planted new flowers in the front yard. A neighbor walked by and waved. Heard what happened, the neighbor called out. Glad you're okay. And hey, thanks for making the neighborhood safer. Derek waved back. Lily looked up at him. Are we staying, Daddy? Yeah, baby. I think we are. She smiled and went back to... The trial took 8 months to get to court. In that time, Derek's life slowly found its rhythm again. Lily went back to school. Derek started working part-time at a security consulting firm that specialized in helping veterans transition to civilian careers. The nightmares came less frequently. The house started to feel like home instead of a fortress, but the media attention was intense. The story had everything reporters loved. Military hero, fake HOA scam, broken arms, a daughter in danger. Within a week of the incident, Derek's doorbell was ringing constantly. News vans parked on his street. Reporters shouted questions when he took Lily to school. Mr. Sullivan, how does it feel to be a hero? Did you use lethal force training on civilians? Are you worried about lawsuits? He ignored all of it until one particular morning when a reporter from a local news station caught him at his mailbox. She was young, maybe late 20s, with kind eyes and a gentle approach that was different from the others. Mr. Sullivan, I'm Rachel Chen. I know you're not doing interviews and I respect that, but I'm working on a story about military families being targeted by scams. Not about you specifically, about the bigger problem. Would you be willing to talk about that? Off camera if you prefer. Something about her approach made Derek stop. What kind of story? Detective Williams told me there are dozens of families who got scammed by Patricia Keene's organization. Maybe more we don't know about. And she's not the only one running this kind of operation. I want to expose it. Help people recognize the warning signs. Maybe prevent it from happening to someone else. Derek thought about Helen Montgomery and her husband, about the other families who'd called him, about how many people might still be getting scammed right now. One interview, he said, but I'm not the story. The victims are the story, and we don't film at my house. I don't want my daughter seeing cameras. They met at a coffee shop downtown. Rachel brought a cameraman, but they set up in a quiet corner where it wasn't obvious what they were doing. Derek felt awkward in front of the camera, but Rachel made it easy. She asked good questions. She listened. What made you realize it was a scam? She asked. Little things at first. The way they talked, like they'd rehearsed it. The fact that they couldn't produce any real documents. But the biggest thing was when they started mentioning my daughter. That's when I knew they'd researched me specifically. Real HOA people don't do that. They don't care about your personal life. These people knew about my wife, knew I was a single father, knew exactly how to pressure me. That's not a random compliance check. That's targeting. What should people look out for? Derek leaned forward. First, verify everything. If someone says you're part of an HOA, get it in writing from your closing documents. Check county records. Real HOAs are registered with the state. Second, never pay anything on the spot. Real violations give you time to respond. And third, trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. These scammers count on people being polite, being scared, wanting to follow the rules. But you have rights. Use them. What would you say to other military families who might be targeted? You're not alone. These people target us because they think we'll follow orders, that we're trained to respect authority. But we're also trained to recognize threats. Trust that training. And if something happens, report it. Don't be embarrassed. Don't think you should have known better. These are professional criminals. They're good at what they do. But we're better. The interview aired 2 days later. Derek watched it with Jake and Lily. He looked tired on camera, older than he felt. But his words were clear, strong, true. His phone started ringing within an hour. More families who'd been scammed. A veteran in Arizona who was dealing with a similar situation right now. A woman in Florida whose husband had died and was being targeted by fake debt collectors. The stories kept coming. Detective Williams called. "You started something, Sullivan." "My office is getting flooded with calls. People reporting scams they never reported before because they were too ashamed. We've identified at least 6 other operations running similar schemes in Texas alone." "Is that good or bad?" "It's good. Sunlight's the best disinfectant. Now we can do something about it." Derek didn't set out to become an advocate, but somehow that's what happened. He started speaking at veteran community centers. He worked with the VA to create educational materials about financial scams. He helped Detective Williams put together a task force specifically focused on fraud targeting military families. It felt good, purposeful, like he was still serving, just in a different way. The trial finally started in early fall. Derek had to testify for 2 full days. Patricia Keene's lawyer tried to make him look like a violent vigilante who overreacted to a simple misunderstanding. But the evidence was overwhelming. The fake documents, the recordings, Martinez's testimony, the other victims who came forward. The prosecution's closing argument was simple. Patricia Keene and her organization targeted vulnerable families with military precision. They researched their victims. They exploited their fears. They used fake legal documents to intimidate and extort. And when one father refused to be a victim, when he defended his daughter against an attempted kidnapping, they want you to believe he's the criminal. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Derek Sullivan is a hero. The criminals are sitting right there. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Patricia Keene was found guilty on 43 counts, including fraud, extortion, attempted kidnapping, and conspiracy. Chen got 32 counts. Martinez and Stokes each got 28. The sentences ranged from 15 to 35 years. Derek wasn't in the courtroom when the verdict came down. He was at Lily's school watching her in the fall play. She was playing a tree in the school's production of The Wizard of Oz. She had 2 lines and looked terrified the whole time, but she said them clearly and didn't forget her costume leaves. Derek had never been more proud. Detective Williams texted him the news. "Guilty on all counts. It's over." Derek looked at his daughter on stage, arms spread wide like branches, a big smile finally breaking through her nervousness. Yeah, he thought. It's over. After the play, they went out for pizza. Lily talked nonstop about the performance, about how her friend forgot her lines, about how the Tin Man's costume kept falling apart backstage. Normal kid stuff. Beautiful, boring, perfect kid stuff. "Daddy, are you listening?" she asked, tomato sauce on her chin. "Every word, baby. You look happy. I am happy. Because the bad people went to jail. Because I'm here with you eating pizza and hearing about your play. That's all I need." She thought about that for a moment, then went back to her story about the Tin Man. A month after the trial, Derek got a letter from Helen Montgomery, the woman who'd called him that first night. She and her husband had gotten $30,000 back from the recovered funds. They were using it to start a scholarship fund for children of veterans. They wanted to name it after Derek's late wife. He sat on the porch reading that letter 3 times, tears running down his face. His wife would have loved that. She'd always believed in paying it forward and making the world better in whatever small way you could. Derek called Helen back. "I'd be honored. But let's not just name it after her. Let's build something bigger. A foundation that helps military families recognize and fight back against scams. Education, legal support, financial counseling. The whole package. That's ambitious. I learned from my wife that the best way to honor someone is to keep their values alive. She believed in protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. Let's do that." The foundation launched 6 months later. They called it the Sarah Sullivan Foundation for Military Family Protection. It started small, just Derek and Helen and a handful of volunteers. But it grew. They helped families across the country. They worked with law enforcement to identify scam operations. They trained people to recognize warning signs. 2 years after everything happened, Derek stood in front of a crowd at a veterans community center. He'd been invited to speak at their annual appreciation dinner. Lily sat in the front row, now 10 years old, wearing a dress she'd picked out herself. "I never planned to become an advocate," Derek told the crowd. "I was just a dad trying to protect his daughter. But that day taught me something important. We spend so much time talking about the threats overseas, the enemies in foreign countries. But sometimes the biggest threats are right here at home. People who target our families when we're at our most vulnerable. People who exploit our service, our trust, our desire to do the right thing." He paused, looking at the faces in the crowd. Veterans and their families. People who understood sacrifice. People who deserved better. Patricia Keene and her organization targeted more than 40 families before they were stopped. They stole almost $2 million. They destroyed people's sense of security. They made veterans feel ashamed for being victims. That's not okay. That's never going to be okay. So we fight back, not with violence, but with knowledge, with community. With the same courage we showed in uniform, now applied to civilian life. The crowd stood and applauded. Derek felt awkward, like he always did with attention. But Lily was beaming at him, and that made it worth it. After the speech, people lined up to talk to him, to share their stories, to ask for help, to say thank you. Each conversation reminded